My ex-wife, who left me with our kids years ago, showed up at my door with another man's child. We met in our early 20s, both working at the same farm, and by 24, we started dating. 2 years later, we got married, and within 3 years, we had 2 daughters. The second pregnancy was unexpected, and while I told her I would support any decision she made, she chose to keep the baby despite her reluctance. After our first daughter was born, everything was great. We loved each other as much as we could. But once she got pregnant again, things started shifting. She became irritable, constantly snapping at me or our older daughter. I thought it was just hormones and hoped it would pass. Instead, it got worse. My daughter and I learned to tread carefully around her. I took on all the household responsibilities, even though she was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. She had quit her job voluntarily after our first child was born to take care of the house and the baby while I worked. That arrangement was fine until the second pregnancy. When she got pregnant again, she started complaining that she was too exhausted to take care of the house or the kids, so we had to hire a housekeeper. It wasn't ideal financially, but I didn't want to make things harder for her, especially while she was pregnant. I figured once she recovered from childbirth, she'd go back to handling the household. And just to be clear, I wasn't one of those husbands who did nothing at home. I always helped after work, even when I was dead tired. After she gave birth to our younger daughter, I assumed things would return to normal after a few months. But months passed, and nothing changed. She was still irritable and refused to do anything around the house. She spent her days sitting in front of the television, barely interacting with the kids. Sometimes, she would pay the neighbor to take them to the park. I don't want to sound bitter, but the housekeeper was doing all the cleaning and cooking. I was covering all the bills while also trying to save for our daughter's future, which was becoming impossible because my wife wasn't contributing in any way. 6 months after our younger daughter was born, I realized I couldn't keep going like this. I needed to talk to her. I arranged for my parents to take the kids for the day and sat her down for a serious conversation. I told her I understood she was exhausted after 2 pregnancies, but I needed her help. I explained that paying for a housekeeper was too expensive, and that she needed to at least take on some of the household chores so we could reduce the housekeeper's hours and save money. She shut that down immediately, saying she was too busy taking care of the kids to do housework, and that I needed to earn more money instead of making excuses and blaming her for our financial struggles. I tried to explain that I was doing everything I could, but if we wanted our marriage to work, she needed to make an effort too. I also pointed out that she wasn't exactly taking care of the kids either. Our housekeeper had once mentioned that she just let them watch mind-numbing reality shows all day. That was a mistake. She blew up, accusing me of spying on her through the housekeeper. Then she launched into a tirade, claiming she wouldn't tolerate me pressuring her into doing everything while I supposedly sat at a desk all day doing nothing. She also said it was my fault I couldn't afford a full-time housekeeper, and that it was pathetic of me to even ask for help. I was the man, the head of the family, so I should handle it all. It was all bullshit. She was grasping at any excuse to justify her behavior while making me out to be the unreasonable one for expecting her to contribute. We ended up in a full-blown argument, and she called me a loser who didn't deserve a woman like her. I snapped and called her a lazy cow who had already failed as a mother since our eldest daughter was scared of her, and now she was failing as a wife too. That got to her. She shoved me hard. I lost my balance, crashed into the coffee table, and shattered the glass. Ended up needing a hospital trip. She cried and apologized the entire time, but I couldn't trust her anymore. Really, my injuries were just minor cuts on my back, but it could have been much worse. I told her she had to move out because I no longer trusted her with our kids. Who knew when she might lose control again and potentially hurt them? I asked my parents to take care of our daughters until she left. She protested, promising it would never happen again, but I just couldn't believe her. I almost filed for divorce then and there, but she begged me to give her a chance. By the end of the week, we reached an agreement. She would move in with her parents and undergo therapy. Only when a professional confirmed she was stable would I allow her to return home. Clearly, something was wrong. Happy people don't act that way. But she was willing to work on herself, and I didn't want our daughters growing up without their mother, so I agreed not to rush a divorce. We lived separately but continued seeing a family therapist together. In the end, it was all a waste of time because she cheated on me. Here's how it happened. My parents moved in with me to help with the girls while she lived with hers. We went to therapy almost daily, and for a while, things seemed to be improving. I also kept in touch with her therapist, who diagnosed her with postpartum depression. Apparently, aggression was one of her symptoms, something she had never shown before. The incident where she pushed me had been a wake-up call for both of us. Nearly a year passed. After 6 months, I even let her visit the girls under my supervision. She was slowly getting back to her old self, and I was relieved. It finally seemed like we had a real shot at fixing things. Then, out of nowhere, she stopped attending our therapy sessions. No explanation, no reason, she just ghosted them. She also started ignoring my messages, though her therapist assured me she was making progress. None of it made sense. For weeks, I tried to talk to her, but she brushed me off. I hesitated to visit her at her parents' place since they hated me, blaming me for everything, as if I had driven their daughter insane. Angela had asked me not to show up, saying it would only cause unnecessary drama, something we already had plenty of. But when she started skipping therapy and shutting me out, I broke that rule. I drove to her parents' house because I needed answers. When I got there, I expected to find her inside, but when I asked where she was, they refused to tell me and slammed the door in my face. The way they did it, so smug, almost enjoying it, sent a bad feeling through me. I called her from right outside their house. No answer. I tried again, and again. With each unanswered call, my paranoia grew. I decided to check around the house, knowing they usually left the back kitchen door unlocked. But I didn't even need to go inside because I saw her. Angela was sitting on the backyard swing. The bad news? She wasn't alone. She was kissing some guy I'd never seen before. It had been a long time since I had last seen her, but that moment burned itself into my memory. It was one of the worst moments of my life, and I can't forget it, even now. The guy, whoever the hell he was, jumped back as soon as he saw me. By the time Angela turned around, I was already walking to my car. She ran after me, tried to stop me, but I wasn't listening. I was numb. When she grabbed my arm, I shoved her away and told her not to fucking touch me. She didn't, and I drove home. Once I got back, I blocked her on everything before she could try to explain. Then, I told my parents I wanted a lawyer and explained what had happened. I didn't hear from her again until we had to meet with a mediator to settle our divorce. By then, I had become a machine, doing what I needed to do for my daughters but feeling nothing inside. I had been breaking my back trying to hold our marriage together, but she had already moved on. She didn't want to be with me, or our daughters. She wanted to be with him. Let's call him Sean. Sean was her childhood friend. They had lost touch after high school, but when she moved back in with her parents, they reconnected, and apparently she fell for him. Her parents were all for it, which is probably why they had no problem with their daughter making out with another man in their backyard while she was still technically married to me. Despite being married with 2 kids, her parents had apparently always hoped she would end up with Sean. They were thrilled that Angela had finally chosen herself, and her happiness like she had ever cared about anyone but herself. The divorce process was long and exhausting. Even though she had cheated on me, she still demanded alimony. It was ridiculous, but she pushed for it. It took time, but my lawyer and I fought back hard, and in the end, she walked away with nothing. Rightfully so, everything belonged to me. I had been the one paying for everything, while she sat at home watching television. It's been 5 years since the divorce was finalized. Getting through those months was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I couldn't afford to break down. I had to be strong for my daughters because they only had me. My parents were a huge help. They supported me, and I will never be able to thank them enough for being there while I balanced work and raising my girls. 5 years later, what once felt like the worst thing that could ever happen to me now feels like a blessing. I don't think I would be where I am today if I hadn't cut Angela out of my life. Everything is better now. I make more money, and since I don't have to waste it on anyone but myself and my daughters, we moved into a bigger house. My parents live nearby and visit often. I have good friends who care about me, and most importantly, my daughters are happy. That's all a man needs, and I'm grateful for it. Or at least, I was until a few days ago, when Angela showed up again. The kids were at school, and I was about to leave for work when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Angela standing there with a little boy by her side. He couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old, and I knew immediately was her son. I was too stunned to speak. Then she opened her mouth and said she wanted to reunite our family and give our marriage another chance. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 5 years of silence, and now she suddenly decided our marriage deserved another shot, as if she had the right to make that choice alone. Without hesitation, I slammed the door in her face. But before I did, I made one thing clear. We are not her family anymore. I stopped being her husband the moment she cheated on me. The divorce was just a legal formality. She had willingly given up custody of our daughters. She had no right to come here now and claim us as hers. Then, I shut the door and told her to get the hell away from my house. I could have cursed her out, but there was a kid standing next to her. I heard her crying on the other side of the door for a few minutes, but I ignored it. When everything fell silent, I left for work. I pushed it out of my mind because letting it linger would only weaken my resolve, and I couldn't afford that. For a moment, I almost forgot she had even come back, until I got home and found a missed call from my parents. When I called back, they were furious, demanding to know why I had turned Angela away. Turns out, after I shut the door in her face, she ran straight to them, crying her heart out. And they had been the ones to send her to me in the first place. They told me Angela had reached out to them a month ago, saying she was divorcing Sean and was finally ready to fix everything. They believed her. They thought it was time to consider the children because, in their eyes, my daughters needed their mother. They actually gave her my address and told her what to say to me. I was beyond pissed. This wasn't their decision to make. It wasn't up to them to forgive her or decide that she deserved a second chance, especially not without even asking how I felt about it. What if the kids had been home? What if she had managed to worm her way back into their lives? It was reckless and stupid. I told them exactly that. They didn't back down. They insisted that because they had helped me so much during the divorce, helped raise my daughters, even now they had a right to decide what was best for them, that I couldn't take that right away from them. It was absurd. These were my daughters, not theirs. No matter how much I respected and appreciated them for everything they had done, they had no say in this, we argued. They called me selfish and stubborn for refusing to give Angela another chance. They swore they had vetted her and were sure she had changed, that she deserved to be in my daughters' lives again. Even when I reminded them that she had signed away her parental rights, they refused to listen. They claimed it was insulting to suggest they would ever endanger me or my daughters and accused me of ruining my children's lives by being too arrogant to admit they needed their mother. It's been a few days since that argument, and I've thought about it a lot, but I still don't believe I was wrong or selfish for refusing to give my ex-wife a second chance to be their mother. Now, before we get into the update, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Do you think I'm an asshole? If so, why? And if not, tell me why you support my decision. Alright, here's the update. It's been about a week since Angela showed up at my door with her son. Recently, I learned the full truth about her relationship with my parents, and honestly, I still can't wrap my head around it. It's disgusting. The level of betrayal is beyond anything I could have imagined. Not only did they give her my new address, but they had been in contact with her this whole time. After the divorce, I cut all ties with her. They didn't. They kept in touch because they believed that, eventually, she would come to her senses. They didn't talk to her often, maybe once a month, but that was more than enough for me to feel completely betrayed. Here's where it gets worse. When Angela was served with the divorce papers, Sean forced her to sign away her parental rights. He gave her an ultimatum. Either she left her family behind and started a new life with him, or she fought to stay in her children's lives and gave up on him. According to my parents, it was a tough choice for her. In the end, she chose Sean and decided to build a new family with him instead of staying with the one she already had. Shortly after I filed for divorce, Angela contacted my parents to explain her situation. She asked for their help because she wanted to secretly stay in touch with our daughters. She claimed that both Sean and I had backed her into a corner. She said I was fighting for full custody with only supervised visitation rights, and that Sean had demanded she completely give up her children. Even if she had chosen to fight for custody, the chances of her getting joint custody were slim, given the circumstances of our divorce and her history of anger issues. To her, fighting for custody seemed like a waste of time and resources. There was a real possibility she would lose everything, both Sean and custody of the girls, if she chose to fight. That's when my parents got involved. She met with them privately, and practically begged them to help her stay in contact with the girls. She knew that after signing away her rights, she wouldn't be able to see the children, not even under supervision. But my parents still had visitation rights, and they decided to use them to help her. And they succeeded. They lied to me for years, secretly allowing Angela to see our daughters. They did it because they were moved by her tragic story, and they decided that she couldn't be separated from the kids. Apparently, betraying their own son didn't bother their conscience in the slightest. They told me that every time I left the girls at their house, they would invite Angela over and let her spend time with them. My daughters never told me about it because my parents bribed them with toys and sweets to keep quiet. Every time I asked what they did at their grandparents' house, they would tell me they played with them and a friend. I always assumed they meant one of my parents' real friends, people I already knew. But no. My parents had told the girls to refer to their mother as the friend, in case I asked. I couldn't believe my daughters had lied to me too, but I forgave them because they were just kids, Angela, and my parents had manipulated and intimidated them into keeping secrets. After I found out the truth, I asked my daughters if they had been seeing their mother behind my back. They burst into tears and told me they couldn't say anything because God would punish them. Angela and my parents must have drilled that into their heads, scaring them with the idea of divine retribution if they told me the truth. No wonder they'd been so secretive and withdrawn all this time. I also felt like a terrible father for never questioning which friends my daughters were spending time with. It could have been someone far more dangerous than Angela and I would never have known. But now, I'm putting an end to it. I've already filed for restraining orders against all of them. Fortunately, I have written evidence. A few days after our argument, my parents sent me a letter explaining everything. That letter is all the proof I need. They thought that letter would help me understand how desperately Angela had tried to stay a mother to her daughters without losing the supposed love of her life. That somehow, it would make me forgive everyone involved. All it did was confirm that they were all disgusting liars. And now, I trust no one. Ironically, Angela had signed away her parental rights and had to sneak around like some criminal just to see her own children, not because of me, but because Sean didn't want her to have any contact with her past life. He was supposed to be her true love, but now they're divorcing, and everything she threw her family away for has gone straight to hell. They even have a son together, but according to my parents, Sean doesn't want anything to do with either of them anymore. He got a big job offer and is moving away in a few months. Angela recently started working, and their son is in preschool here, so she doesn't want to relocate with him. They've been fighting about it for a while. 3 months ago, it all reached a breaking point. Sean finally told her he was done. He was taking the job and leaving. He didn't care about being a family man anymore because that meant sacrificing his future and happiness to make her happy. And he wasn't willing to do that. This entire sob story was supposed to make me feel sorry for Angela. But all I felt was justice. I've already spoken to my lawyer, and the restraining order request has been filed. I also had a serious talk with my daughters. I told them that from now on, they would never see their grandparents or their mother again. Right now, they seem to have accepted it, but we're still in therapy, trying to work through it. I know it's going to be hard for them. It has been hard for them, but it's over now. They thought that letter would help me understand how desperately Angela had tried to stay a mother to her daughters without losing the supposed love of her life. That somehow it would make me forgive everyone involved. All it did was confirm that they were all disgusting liars. And now, I trust no one. Ironically, Angela had signed away her parental rights and had to sneak around like some criminal just to see her own children, not because of me, but because Sean didn't want her to have any contact with her past life. He was supposed to be her true love, but now they're divorcing, and everything she threw her family away for has gone straight to hell. They even have a son together, but according to my parents, Sean doesn't want anything to do with either of them anymore. He got a big job offer and is moving away in a few months. Angela recently started working, and their son is in preschool here, so she doesn't want to relocate with him. They've been fighting about it for a while. 3 months ago, it all reached a breaking point. Sean finally told her he was done. He was taking the job and leaving. He didn't care about being a family man anymore because that meant sacrificing his future and happiness to make her happy, and he wasn't willing to do that. This entire sob story was supposed to make me feel sorry for Angela, but all I felt was justice. I've already spoken to my lawyer, and the restraining order request has been filed. I also had a serious talk with my daughters. I told them that from now on, they would never see their grandparents or their mother again. Right now, they seem to have accepted it, but we're still in therapy, trying to work through it. I know it's going to be hard for them. It has been hard for them. But it's over now. Update 2. Hey everyone. Thank you for all your support and concern. Angela and my parents have received their restraining order notices and have a court date in a few days. I have no idea how they feel about it because I've blocked them on everything and asked my friends not to speak to them if they try to reach out. I've also increased security around my home and have been working remotely for the past few days. I spoke with my daughter's school administration and explained the situation. At first, I considered keeping them home for a while, but I don't want their education to suffer because of Angela and my parents. Now, the school staff is keeping a close eye on them and ensuring no one but me picks them up. I'm doing everything I can to keep them from reaching us because I know they'll try. So far, everything is going well, and I hope that once we have the restraining orders finalized, they'll stay the hell away. Update 3. This will be a short one, but we got the restraining orders. For the next 5 years, those 3 lunatics are legally required to stay away from me and my daughters. If they don't, they'll face serious consequences. Of course, I'm keeping all security measures in place. The last time I saw them, they looked furious, and I'm not taking any risks. My daughters and I are continuing therapy, and I truly believe we'll make significant progress in the next few months. To be honest, we already have. All I want now is for my daughters to be happy. That's enough for me. So please keep sending us your well wishes. We really need them. Thank you for your attention. Subscribe, leave a like, and have a great day.